Shall we begin?
Let's begin now.
Hi everybody, it's Doreen, and it's that time of the year again. It's time for me to do my Mother's Day cards with the Cricut series. So I wanted to get started a little bit sooner, but that didn't work out. So we're going to go ahead and push forward, and I'm going to crank out these cards so I can give you some samples of some Mother's Day cards that you might want to try. So today, for day number 1, we are going to be using the Country Life cartridge and the Wild Card cartridge. So the card we will be making looks like this. So come on and join me, and I'm going to show you how I made this card. Okay everybody, before we get started with day 1 of the Mother's Day cards with the Cricut, I want to talk about that this will be the last year that I will be using just the Cricut to do the Mother's Day series. I am still going to do a Mother's Day series, but because I've purchased another die cutting machine, which I call Erica, it's actually the Silhouette Cameo. I'm going to be doing my Mother's Day series using the Cricut, the Cameo, and some of my die cuts. I wanted to give a variety so that those who don't have a die cutting machine but have die cuts, I can show you how to do some cards using the die cuts as well. I have lots of die cuts and I haven't been using them, and I want to start using them again. So I'm not going to not do the series itself anymore. I just won't be calling it Mother's Day cards with the Cricut. So let's go ahead and bring up the supplies so we can get started with day 1 of the series. So now we'll be using the Wild Card cartridge, and the card we're going to be making is on page 32 of the handbook, and I've cut out the scallop card and the blackout as well. So, and I've cut those out at 3/4 of an inch, and I did that because in order to fit this on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, 3/4 of an inch was about as big as you could cut it. So on the Gypsy, that is, we'll go to that cartridge. That is key number 1, and it looks like this. And so I've cut that out, and then I've hit the blackout feature and hit key number 1 again. So let's go ahead and put this together. So what I've done is I've also inked the edges on my top layer using the Tim Holtz Evergreen Bow ink. And this does cut the score marks with the ticks, not the score marks itself. It'll cut the ticks, and I know some people don't like the ticks. It doesn't actually bother me, so it's your preference if you want to cut them or not. And because I cut the blackout, I did have a little bit of a time getting them to match up once I scored them, but eventually what I ended up doing was just putting the two together and paper clipping them and then doing my scoring. So we're going to get out the ATG gun and get some tape on this bottom layer, which is actually, and my ATG gun just broke, so let me rethread that and we'll continue. Okay everybody, I didn't mean to say that my ATG gun broke. I meant the tape broke. So I've rethreaded it, and I'm just going to go ahead and continue getting some tape along here. And we want to make sure we get some on this side, and make sure you don't put any tape over that hole, because you're going to need that hole later to add your ribbon. So I think we've got enough on there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a paper clip so that I can get this lined up evenly. Now you don't have to cut the black out if you don't want to. I just went ahead and cut it because I wanted to just give it some more sturdiness, because this is that Joann Fabrics, what they call textured linen cardstock, and it is very, very thin. So I'm going to line up my holes here like so. And it looks like I didn't need the paper clip. So I lined them up, and I'm going to press down all the way. And then what I'm going to do is, and it looks like I lined this up incorrectly. So you get to see one of my mistakes. Now hopefully I will be able to pull this off. Otherwise I may have to recut this again. So let me get this pulled apart and we'll try adding this again. Okay everybody, I'm back, and I did not have to recut again. What I recommend is do not score each piece separately. When you score them, put them on top of each other and then do your scoring so that they match up. I found that when I scored them separately, it didn't close the way I wanted it to. Like right here, I had a bit of a gap that I didn't want. So I recommend that you do score them after you've got them on top of each other if you're going to use the blackout feature, and cut the two to go together. So I've rescored, and I didn't have to recut it. So now let's continue adding on our layers. So the next layer we're going to add is this layer here, and this is going to fit on top of here like so. Now one thing it does not do is it does not cut the hole there, so you'll have to punch a hole yourself, and I'm going to use my Crocodile to do that, the smaller size. So let me first, it looks like I got some paper stuck in here, so let me clear that out, and then we're going to punch a hole. But first I just want to lay it down on here where I want it. And we've got to bring it up just a little bit because you've got to make sure you get that enough space in there for the hole. And that looks about where I want it. I'm going to come back just a little bit here. And then I'm just going to take my Crocodile, and I'm using the smaller size. And this time I think I will paper clip it together, just so the paper doesn't shift on me. And then I'm just going to punch a hole, matching up the hole that's on the card itself. So there you have your hole. So then that way, we're going to do the other side at the same time. So we'll take our second piece here and line it up. And I'm going to use another paper clip as soon as I can find one. Here we go. And line that up. I'm going to pull that back just a little bit. And then I'm going to flip it over and punch my hole. Okay, so now what we can do is we can go ahead and tape this down. So now these pieces right here, you're going to cut at 3/4 of an inch, just like you did your card itself. And that is what you're going to do to cut that. Here we are. Is you're going to hit your, let's see which button that is. That is your liner. So you're cutting this right here. And again, it's on page 32. So on the Gypsy, you're going to hit the liner button, and then you're going to hit key number 1, and you're going to cut that at 3/4 of an inch. So now let's go ahead and tape this down. So I'm just going to make sure I got that lined up. And actually I should have used, we're going to use the Tombow adhesive for this. And I inked the edges as well with this one using the Evergreen Bowl by Tim Holtz. And this paper itself is from a paper stack by DCWV. It's called the Linen Closet. So let's go ahead and line this up, and we'll match up our holes. And we'll press down all the way around. And then we'll go ahead and we'll do our other side and line up the hole. And we'll use our Tombow again. And get some tape on here. And don't run tape over your hole. You don't want to do that. And then we're going to press down. Okay, so now when we fold that over, it looks like that. So now basically that's it for your cartridge for the Wild Card Cartridge card. But now we need to add some embellishments. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I've done is I've taken and cut out this vase with the flowers, and this is from the Country Life cartridge. Okay, everybody, I have the handbook. I have so many cards already started that I have things everywhere, so I had to look to see where did I put this handbook. Okay, so the vase is on page 60, and it's actually says picture is what it's calling it. And what I've done is, once I cut it out, I decided I wanted to pop these up a little bit or add some dimension to them. So I'm going to show you what I did. But first of all, this was cut at 3 1/4 inches. So let's go to that cartridge. And this is the vase right here, or they're calling it picture. So I'll go to Country Life, and it is key number 33, and it looks like so. And as I said, that was cut at 3 1/4 inches. So now the other thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to add a little layer on the picture or vase. So what I've done is I've taken my EK Success Parisian punch, and it looks like this, and I just punched out a strip and then cut off what I needed. And what I had left over, I am going to use this. Always try to use your scraps as much as possible. So I want the picture to sit here like so. But before we actually put this down on the front of our card, I'm going to add some little rosebuds. And I cut these, or die cut these, they look like this, using my Favorite Things mini rose die. So I'm going to place one here, and then one here, and then I'm going to place one here. Now what I've done is, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. There we go. Oh, zoom back just a little bit. A little too close there. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken some of the scrap card stock from my top layer of my card and the bottom layer of the card, and then I've die cutted the little mini rosebuds. Once they were die cut, I took the Tim Holtz Evergreen Bowl again, and inked the cardstock, and then I sprinkled it with the Martha Stewart Aquarium Crystal Glitter. And I also sprinkled it with some of the Stampin' Up! Dazzling Diamond. So now we can go ahead and I'm going to just hot glue these little rosebuds to those petals. And then we'll be able to go ahead and add this to our card. And the other thing I'm going to do is I am going to pop this up. So we're going to put some dimensionals on the back of here once I get all the rosebuds added. And put that on the card. Just make sure when you're putting your hot glue on, you don't glue your picture to your paper or your table. So I'm just pulling out some of these glue stragglers. So this is what it ended up looking like. So now let's get some dimensionals on the back of here, and then we'll be ready to add this to the card. So this is a really quick and simple one for you to make. So I think that'll be enough. Alright, now I'm going to zoom back so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay. So we'll pull off our backing for our dimensionals. And then we're going to add the picture, or as I call it, a vase with our flowers, to the front of our card. And I'm just going to place that right there. So now the last thing we need to do to add to our card is you will cut out from the Wild Card Cartridge these little circles. And that's basically just to put over on top of your card, so that if you want to put ribbon through there, you can go ahead and put your ribbon through. So I'm just going to take my, actually we're going to use the two-way zig pen. Okay, so I'm just going to get some glue all the way around this. I have a brand new fresh pen. And I'll have to remember to put my cap back on when I'm done for the day making my cards, because I had the last one dry out again on me. And we'll add that one like so. Okay, so now for ribbon, once again I did not have any ribbon the color that I wanted. So this ribbon started off white, and this is an 1/8 of an inch ribbon. And I took one of my Copic markers, it's the pale blue, and I colored in the ribbon. So I've cut this on an angle so that I can thread this through. And hopefully I can get this through. I've already done it once, just so I can make sure the ribbon would fit. So now, of course, when I'm on camera, okay, there we go. And then you can just go ahead and make yourself a little bow. And I just cut a piece of ribbon. I didn't measure what I was cutting. Okay, that I may have to practice, because it does take me a minute to tie a bow. So I'm going to make my bow, and then, of course, I have to add my bling. And then I'll be back with the finished card, and then we'll go over how I made the envelope feature that came with the Wild Card Cartridge for this card. Okay, everybody, before I add my bling and tie my bow, I also wanted to show what I did for the inside of the card. I just stamped out Happy Mother's Day, and this is from a stamp set. I believe it's in Inkadinka-Doo, but I'm not positive because I didn't keep the name of who it's by, but I pretty much buy a lot of Inkadinka-Doo. And then this piece here, remember we talked about this earlier? This is just a strip that I had left over from the front of the vase. So what I decided to do was use my scrap, and I'm just going to put that right there. And I'm going to run the two-way zig pen across to adhere this. So I just go ahead and run my pen across there real quick. And then I'll add this right in here. And it just so happened that that piece fit perfectly. So now we can go and tie our bow and add our bling. Okay everybody, so I'm back with the finished card, and what I've done is I've added some bling along here on the side, and then I stamped Thinking of You up here in the corner, and then I've added the butterfly using the Cherry Lin dies, or die cuts. And so now what we want to do real quickly, I'm going to show you how to put the envelope that comes with this Wild Card cartridge for this card. And this is actually on the same page, and it looks like this. And I cut this at 3 3/4 inches, the same size that the card was cut. So what you'll do on your Gypsy, if you're using your Gypsy, you're going to hit the shift lock button and key number 1, and your envelope looks like this. And then what I also did was I went ahead and cut the liner, and you will hit your shift lock, liner, and then key number 1, and the liner looks like this. So real quickly we'll put this together, and then we'll have our completed card with the envelope. So I cut the liner out of some cardstock that I got from a big pack of paper. This cardstock, I wanted to cut it in the same color as the card, but this was not large enough. And then this cardstock here is just some cardstock that I picked up in the dollar bin at Target. And I've gone ahead and stamped out Happy Mother's Day, the same stamp that I used to stamp in the inside of the card. So let's put our liner together. The other thing that I did was I went around, I didn't have to ink all of the edges, but I did ink the edges up at the top here, and you'll see why in a moment after we put the card together. But I did that because the paper is not double-sided and it's white on the other side. So let's get our ATG gun out, and we'll get some tape on here. And be careful when you do that, because this paper is very thin, and when I pulled it off the Cricut mat, my mat was very sticky, so the paper began to curl as I was pulling it off. So we'll add this to the envelope, and if I didn't say, you should cut this at 3/4 inch as well. And the other thing you don't need to do, which is what I did and you shouldn't do, is don't put any tape at the top of this. And you'll see why in just a moment. So I have that on there. So now I'm going to finish putting my envelope together. And I'm just going to take my Tombow adhesive and close that up, and then we'll get some tape down here on the bottom and close that up. And the reason why I say you don't want to put any tape, and the other reason why I colored that in with the evergreen bow, is because it would have been white on this side, and I didn't want that. So the last thing I want to do is, I still had some cardstock left over, so I want to put these little rosebuds on the outside of the envelope. So I'm just going to take my glue gun real quick, and we'll add the little rosebuds to the envelope. So we'll add some glue on the last one, and then place those right in the corner. So that's it, everybody. This is day number 1 of Mother's Day cards with the Cricut. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.